There was a time in my life when I had everything I thought I wanted. A beautiful wife, kids, a nice house, a successful company. Money was coming in, and I was completely empty. Because before Jesus, I was depressed, I was angry, alone, and suicidal. And after I came home from Afghanistan, I realized very quickly something is wrong. See, I didn't know how to be a husband. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to show emotion. The truth was, no one showed me. And I love my parents. I wouldn't trade them for the world. If their parents struggled to show them emotion and didn't show them that intimacy and vulnerability, then they have nothing to pass down. And when you don't have vulnerability displayed in your life, you become very angry instead. I took my insecurity and disguised it as strength. I put all my effort into the work of my hands. My accomplishments became my idol, and praise also became an idol. But here's the problem. If your identity is built on applause, when the applause stops, then you disappear. I had everything, and it was never enough. I was making money. I was making just enough money that I almost lost my marriage. I told my wife I didn't need her, and she moved out. You fast forward 10 months later, we're back together and almost separated again. It was because we were missing something. We were missing Jesus. We just didn't know it at the time. I was angry. I was drinking from morning until bedtime every single day for almost 3 years. And here's the wild part. One day my wife said she was leaving, and I broke. I begged her for one more chance. She was just tired of how I treated her. I yelled at her. I cursed. I didn't show her affection, no intimacy, no nothing. She gave me another chance. But this time I knew there was only one option left. I had to surrender. I had to do something different. I told the family we would go to church. I had no idea what that meant, but it was one of the scariest statements I've ever said. I just knew that my wife and my kids were judging me. They knew everything I'd ever done wrong. They knew everything I struggled with. The first time I walked into church, I walked in drunk. Within the next month, I was still drunk. Then I was sitting there thinking, they know everything about me, everybody in this church. But they didn't. But God did. Then during a Bible study, the Lord delivered me from alcohol. In a second, just like that. There was no withdrawal, no headache, no shakes. I poured everything out right there on the spot. As a therapist, I knew that wasn't how it doesn't work that way. And that's when God confronted my intellect. In Colossians 3, verse 2, God says, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things below. God was telling me, stop relying on your worldly thinking. Start trusting me. And that's when everything changed. Not instantly perfect, but permanently redirected. Here's what many people struggle to tell new believers. You can meet Jesus and still have a lot of work to do. You know, in Romans 12, verse 2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. See, there's a process. And this is where a lot of people they stopped. They accept Jesus, but they don't pursue transformation. It just hurts, right? They stay surface level. They blame church hurt, but it's not church hurt. It's sinful people hurting people. Also, religion, it didn't save me. Jesus did. And as we dove deeper, we realized something even more powerful. Jesus' other name is Yeshua. Yeshua is Jewish. Our faith has roots. God never turned his back on his chosen people. And when we started reading the Torah, the Tanakh, or the Old Testament, we didn't find it burdensome. We found God revealing himself. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember thinking the Old Testament, I remember thinking Revelations was the scariest book in the Bible. And then I also remember thinking that the Old Testament was just the book you don't read. You're not bound by it anymore. You don't have to read it anymore. But then as I dove deeper into the roots of my faith, I read the Old Testament. One of the things that we shy away from is like the stonings and the rituals. And if you're bleeding, don't go to the temple, all that stuff. But those are the consequences. If you get the consequences out of the way, because Jesus paid the ultimate sacrifice. If you get those consequences out of the way, what do you see? It's nothing but God's love, his heart, and his desire for us to pursue him and to love each other. That's what Jesus spoke about. Jesus didn't speak about something new. He spoke about the Old Testament, where God revealed his heart to us. The feasts, the festivals, the rhythms of remembrance, how God wanted us to remember him and come to him. They weren't chains. They were gifts. I still see them as gifts right now. But Western culture teaches independence, right? Handle it yourself. Don't be vulnerable. Privacy over fellowship. But that's not biblical. The Jewish culture understands something very powerful. Community is survival. Fellowship is formation. When I started being vulnerable with other men, when I learned how to show affection to my wife and my kids, when I stopped walking around with a chip on my shoulder, that's when joy showed. That is when joy was knocking on my door. See, we weren't meant to do this walk alone. Isolation is where the enemy whispers, you guys. Brotherhood is where God strengthens us. If you're watching this and you feel stuck, if you're angry, addicted, empty, or insecure, I promise you, I've been there. Don't settle for being a surface level believer. Dive deep. Read the Old Testament, study the Torah, learn the roots of your faith. And if God convicts you, be ready to lean into him. It might feel scary. I know it does. But transformation always is intimidating. For those that either struggle to follow Jesus or choose not to follow Jesus at all, how are things working right now? I bet it feels like when you're happy, your happiness is either empty or the smallest thing can take it away. See, I've stopped searching for joy in things and in people. I only seek joy from the Lord. Happiness can come and go, but joy is something that cannot be taken away. Some days my wife and kids can get upset with me. My truck that brings me happiness can break down, but the joy from the Lord is something that can never be taken away from me. The Lord gives me joy, and his provisions bring me happiness, like my wife, my kids, or my home. Surround yourself with brothers and sisters who will sharpen you. God changed everything in my life. To this day, me and my wife, we still have our challenges, but today, when we have our disagreements, they don't feel so painful and despairing. I love the changes God has made in my life and in my family's life. It's not because we were strong, but it's because we finally surrendered. You need to know that the joy from the Lord is waiting for you. You can have the same thing we have if you put your faith in Yeshua, Jesus. But once you do, be ready to get out of the place that you're in right now and get to work. Because the one thing I always say is if you're truly following the Lord and feel like life is still boring, then you're probably doing it wrong. If you watch this long, you've already blessed my day. In the coming weeks, we'll be doing street interviews and diving deeper into conversations like these. If this resonated with you, please like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.